Hello, this is Adriane Berg. I'm the host of Generation Bold podcast, which looks at the fountain of truth. The fountain of truth about what? The fountain of truth about aging. And the fountain of truth about aging is that we can definitely live longer, healthier, happier, and in a more contributory way than ever before. And in addition to our podcast, one of the things that we do for you is we cover conferences that might be too expensive, too far away, or maybe you think they're just not for you because they seem to be technical, financially, or medically. And one of those conferences I'm going to give you a brief review of today took place in San Diego, October 6th through 9th. I was there as press for the entire 4 days to cover it just for you. And 6 things came out of this conference called Raadfest. And Raadfest stands for Revolution Against Aging and Death. And no, it is not as out there as everyone might think, as out there as I thought it might be. In fact, a great deal of what I learned just enhances my knowledge of geroscience. Geroscience meaning the science of growing older. So to review this conference so that you get the most out of it the next few minutes, I selected 6 things that I think you ought to know is happening in this world, in the world of geroscience, and in your own longevity, things you may want to discuss with your doctor, things you might be reading about in the news, things that I would go into grow your antenna with regard to living longer, healthier, and in a more contributory fashion. One that impressed me was tissue rejuvenation, particularly with regard to vision. One of the many, many conferences that are dealing with tissue regeneration. For example, in mice, yes, I know we start with mice usually in this field, blind mice, just like in the poem, actually were able to have their eyes rejuvenated so that they can see. Now, this is not science fiction. It is called tissue rejuvenation, and there's a lot you're going to be hearing about it, and I want you to become aware of it. A second thing that I knew very little about, even though I've been studying geroscience, and in fact, I was the executive director for 2 years until last February of Catalyst Institute. Now I'll be following their conference for you later on. But one thing I had not heard of much about was exosomes. And let me tell you exactly what an exosome is, so that when you start to hear about it in the news, you will be clued in and aware. An exosome, very simply, is messenger particles that release naturally from your cell. The particles are responsible for cell-to-cell communication. Exosomes carry genetic information and proteins to cells throughout your entire body, and they create pathways for communications between cells. And to have, let us say, healthy, vibrant, working exosomes is very important to the future of your age. Stem cell research is something you all may be very familiar with. It's controversial at some points. It was not allowed in the United States at some points. And now it is, and it's accepted for many types of diseases and problems. But there's a contingency that believes that stem cell replacement will help you with things like your arthritis, your rheumatoid issues, but maybe also how long you will live and how healthy you will be. And you may be reading in magazines about very wealthy people taking stem cells of their own and repurposing them back into their own body. You know, they used to be the old your place or mine. Well, today there are stem cell locations in different parts of the United States and also the world that harvest stem cells and will do stem cell work for you. It's extremely expensive right now. It's untested and it's not covered, but it is in the geroscience news. Epigenetics. Now, let me go backwards one step. There are hallmarks of aging. There are things in your body happening right now that you could understand even if you're not a geroscientist that tell you how well you're aging. One of them you'll know right away, and that is your immune system. Another one is how much inflammation you have in your body. Another one is your genetics, how you were born, and what was the life expectancy and health expectancy of your parents. But another one is called epigenetics. It's not your genetics, it's not your genes, it's how your genes express themselves. And the reason I'm so interested, particularly in epigenetics, is my genetics is terrible. I always laugh, but it's not so funny, that I have the genetics of a fruit fly. Most people in my family never made it past age 60. And my own dad did not make it into his early 40s. So I've always been concerned that my genetics are terrible, but I discovered something. And that is, it's not so much your genes, it's how you express them. And that can change. Even identical twins can have the same genes and yet have different health spans and different lifespans because of the way their genes express themselves. And there's a lot of work being done right now on epigenetics, including gene therapy. And on our show in a few weeks, Generation Bold, we will have Liz Parrish, who's one of the first humans who's had gene therapy done on herself and is a leader because she is part of a company that discusses and does research, gives information and education on epigenetics and gene therapy. Gerotherapeutics. Now, here are two words I'd like you to know. Gerotherapeutics versus gerointerventions. A gerointervention is what your mother told you to do. Exercise, eat right, have life purpose, be excited about life, have the right attitude. Well, at Raadfest, and in most geroscience conferences, there's another aspect of living longer, because all those things do help you live longer. And it's been proven in studies that exercise, correct nutrition, things you do at home make a big difference in your life. But gerotherapeutics are pills. And the two pills that are talked about most often are metformin and rapamycin. And those are two pills that you want to think about, because if you have diabetes, you may already be taking at least metformin. And the fact is, it is possible that in the not too distant future, just like our statins, our aspirins, many things that we have no trouble either getting a prescription for or buying over the counter, may also be available to us. And I want you to know early on in this awareness project that I have about those two medications, metformin and rapamycin. Certainly you can talk to your doctors about it. I'm not telling you to go take it. I'm just telling you that it is in the news with regard to generation. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like us right here on YouTube. Don't forget to go and have a nice rating after you listen to some of our shows on iTunes. And what I say every week on my podcast is, get out there, kids, and make it happen.
I'm inappropriate.